Welcome, Ultimate fans, to live streaming coverage of the premier Ultimate League. New York Gridlock getting set to take on Indy Red in the final matchup of the regular season for the home Gridlock. 5-0 against Indy Red, coming off a big win over Philly that all but secures their spot in the postseason. I'm Keith Rayner, and I'm joined by Judy Jarvis for this end of regular season matchup. Judy, big win for the Red last night, but they're on a back-to-back going up against a Gridlock team in a game that could decide the North Division.
Absolutely, Keith. And while Gridlock knows they're in the playoffs, seeding absolutely matters for both of these teams. So we know that Gridlock is revved up for this game. This is their last in front of their home audience. And then for Indy Red, they've had the best season of their entire time here. So they want to make it hard for Gridlock to clinch that top seed in the North. For the game here for Indy, they just took on Surge, as you said, by 1 point. They won 18-17. So a very tight but excellent game, and so they're pumped up. They might be a little tired. This would be their first playoff since 2022, which was the kind of quasi-shortened season, but their first kind of official playoff appearance, and they look really hungry right now, Keith.
Very different team than that team from 2022. So a very different set of players on the roster, and certainly a different tenor coming off that win over Philly, which I think you could argue is the biggest win that has happened in the franchise's history. But now they'll try and be Giant Slayers against a New York team that hasn't lost in 2 years and is the reigning champs. And they'll have to do it on the road here in Facina Field.
Yeah, and Keith, when you're looking at this matchup, knowing how much strength is on both sides of the field here, who are some of the key players that you're expecting to have dominant performances tonight?
Well, it's easy to say, I think, on the Gridlock side. They have some really big-name players that are really well-known in the community for their contributions on the field. And Jolie Krebs, being one of the leaders of this New York team, has been critical for them in the backfield, is obviously an explosive goal scorer and defender. She plays a ton of points, and they have a short roster today. I think we're going to see a lot of Jolie Krebs, among some of the other big names, of course, on this Gridlock roster.
And on the Indy side, who do you think is really going to bring it today?
For Indy, they have a really deep group. Their offensive unit is really balanced, but the players I think that they probably rely upon the most are Tracy Lowe and Laura Gertzer, who really activate their offense in a lot of ways, keep the disc moving. Quick disc movement is kind of a hallmark of this Indy team, and we expect that to be what they're trying to push from the get-go.
Absolutely, and we see here the toss, so the captain's in with our observers tonight, figuring out possession. We also had a chance to go down on the field before the game to talk to the coaches about, what they were planning, what they were hoping for. And it was interesting to hear from Gridlock that they talked about exactly what you brought up, the quick disc movement of Indy Red, as that if they can stop that, that's the key to the game. But if they can't, that's where Indy takes a lot of skill. And on the other side, what do you see for Indy, or what did you hear from the coaches about what Indy needs to do to stop Gridlock?
Well, stopping Gridlock is a tough task. They have been a really strong team throughout this season. They've had kind of a mix of personnel, though, which was something that the team expected. And this Indy team, conversely, I characterize as like a high chemistry group. So maybe that's an axis in which they could try and beat this New York team. But coming off of the way that they played against Philly, where they were able to generate a lot of blocks, where they had inconsistent but really strong offensive flow when it was present, I got to think they're feeling as confident as ever. And if there's going to be a chance for them to take it down to a team like New York, this is it. But for them, you also want to prove that you can hang in the postseason. This is a team that we mentioned last time they were in the postseason in 2022. They were pretty outclassed by the time that they got there. And this team feels different. I think that they feel a lot more confident. That's certainly the sense you get to talking with their coaches on the sideline.
Yeah, so Jackie Lai was one of the coaches that we spoke to on Indy Red, and she was talking about, there's both challenges and opportunities of the doubleheader. So just last night, they had this incredible game, and strongly encourage folks to watch the game, even though we told you the score and the result. It's still one of those just incredible PUL games. But Jackie Lai was saying that, though they might be tired, though there might be some unknowns, that they're really focused on their controllables, which she said are effort and enthusiasm, and she said very clearly, looked us dead in the eye and said, and we're here to win. And so just having that kind of, intensity from Indy Red, if they can come out in that manner, I think Gridlock will really have to work quite hard, and that they should not expect an easy game here.
And that probably puts to bed any questions folks may have about, two teams that are basically into the postseason. Gridlock has locked their position. Indy would need some sort of absolute catastrophe in this game, I think, to even open up the possibility of them not making the postseason based on where they are at. But all likelihood headed to the postseason. But at stake here is still a chance to be the number one seed in the division. And we already know on the opposite side of the bracket, there'll be DC Shadow as the 1 seed on the other side and Raleigh Radiance as the 2 seed. So the matchups are pretty clearly defined if teams have a preference. And based on the way that DC has played over the past 3 seasons, I think both teams are going to be looking to want to play Raleigh, who's got a 8-point point differential going into this weekend. DC's just a nice 55, plus 55. The next highest team is this Gridlock with plus 17. So coming into this weekend, DC looks like the best team, the team to beat in the league. I don't think either team's going to want to play them in the semifinals if they can help it.
That is quite a difference in spread. And we heard from the Gridlock coaches. We spoke to head coach Brittany Taylor and assistant coach Izzy Bryant. And Coach Taylor talked about, we're treating this like the most important game of the season. And so I think that is certainly about seeding, as you're saying, Keith, but I think it's also about preparing their mental game for, Raleigh's not going to be a cakewalk either. Despite DC's absolute dominance, Raleigh has got some, incredible talent, incredible depth. And so Gridlock really wants to make sure that they're coming and using this as not even a dress rehearsal, but as this, seeing it as part of the playoffs process.
Yeah, I jokingly called it like an early playoff game. This is a chance to play against the type of competition you're going to need to beat in order to win a championship this year. And those opportunities don't come frequently, especially in a league where you have 6 regular season games. There's just not a lot of chances to get these types of tests. I think another area that'll be interesting to see is how these teams handle the conditions. There's a little bit of a gust, but on the field, not a lot of wind consistently, and it's warm out there on the turf. And you got a team playing on a back-to-back of a doubleheader, and then you've got another team that has a small roster, missing folks due to injuries and other commitments. So it could be a game where the team that can play with a little more grit is the team that comes out ahead.
I think that's exactly right, that we can't make any assumptions about this game. There's so many variables that could be the most important. We don't know which those are yet, but the PUL is about to begin. So Gridlock is on offense. Indiana Red is with the disc on defense, about to start the first quarter of this exciting game. We're glad you're here with us.
Annie Mylink getting ready to pull. We are underway here in Facina Field. And right away, Red coming out with the zone. Gina Cartagena coming back. Handling with Nina Finley, who's I think in her first game of the season. Core member of the team during last year's title run. Right now, Gridlock moving backwards against this flat defense from Indy.
And this zone is starting out very effective.
And it works perfectly, force a lot of passes until you get an error, and Ellie Youngster with the drop. Red with an early break opportunity and a chance to put the home team on their heels. Riley Dixon resets and now up into the air. A little bit of a hesitant defensive moment there, making it seem like there might have been a call on the field.
Looks like there was a call and some discussion, potentially a pick here.
After that pick call.
Still think, I think you might want to attack that a little more aggressively. Maybe going to get a turn out of it.
A lot of people look frozen who could have been moving.
Dixon comes in and goes back to a similar throw, but a different part of the field, and now a pack underneath it. And what a catch. Excellent stuff from Annie Meilink. And right away, Indy showing they came here to play, jumping out 1-0 with a break.
Oh my goodness, it felt like the world stopped for a minute there with that high floaty, catching the wind a little bit, but Annie Meilink able to bring it down for a break, and the first score of the game going to Indy Red.
Some high drama right away in this game with these hanging passes, but Red's got to feel a real jolt of confidence with an opening break against the reigning champs.
Wow, and that slow-mo, we just see the excellence of Annie Meilink's read there to grab it in motion way up high with a scrum of folks there to take the break. And that puts New York on their heels. I mean, the disc didn't even get really past a third of the field there, Keith. What do you think was so effective about that zone?
Well, they stayed flat. They were able to deny upfield options, took away chances for unmarked throws to occur that might have gone further downfield. So we'll see if they go back to that same strategy. They were using it a lot against Philadelphia. This New York team, though, very experienced. I don't think they're going to be rattled just by a zone and a break. Martina and Finley back to work. Gridlock sticking with the lots of short, continuous passes strategy.
And this is a lot better motion than we saw last point.
Not just from the disc, but also with their movement across the field. You see the legs are turning a bit more from these handlers. Janine Lavity back to Krebs.
Yeah, the four handlers across here is really effective at using the full width of the field for Gridlock.
It is interesting how this zone, though, does find chances to apply pressure on some of these resets. And there, Krebs able to run through the front layer of the zone, and Jay DeJesus now has it on the goal line. And a quick little give and go, and basically a series of 3-yard passes all the way down the field for Gridlock for their first hold of the game.
And to something you were saying earlier, Keith, about the confidence and experience of this team, they looked just absolutely confident getting it down the field. Jenny DeJesus here, a couple fakes. Let me just see what my best option is to Cartagena, and then right back to DeJesus for the score. So they are not rattled, and they're ready to figure out, what adjustments they need to make. In fact, it's interesting to see that their motion, I mean, that's a lot of what Indy Red's motion that's been so successful is the small ball, looking for the really close quarters open opportunities. So now Gridlock is going to be hungry to get a break of their own here with their D-line out there.
First defensive point for Gridlock, so we'll get our first look at Red's O-line as well.
D-line for the Gridlock, we have Nina Finley.
And we heard from the coaches, too, that on this D-line, Chelsea Leader and Casey Bantarayan are two people that they really want to see lighted up on defense, really shutting down some of the key Indy players. So we'll see if they can make good on the coaches' hopes here.
Matchup for Gridlock, forcing to the far sideline, so righty backhand. Or Gerritzer up to Rachel Mast. Gerritzer back to it, another pick call. Deep shot, looking for Kat McGuire, and that throw could not have sat any more perfectly from McGuire, and the speedster barely needs to turn on the jets for an easy red score.
What a gorgeous floaty huck. I think we'll get to see it again, Keith. Here it comes. And the boost, and it just lays out perfectly, so Kat McGuire has no problem grabbing it, even with Casey Bantarayan in that matchup. A hold for Indy Red.
Confident response from Indy. And it can be tough on your first D point to go out there and you need usually a chance to kind of set your matchups, get a sense of what the other team's going to do before the defense can really sink their teeth in. But you don't want the other offense to be able to come straight up the sideline and then a perfect tuck.
Yes, they're definitely talking about how to adjust on that to have, pass, huck be completed. That's the kind of thing that Gridlock defense is not going to be happy to allow. Maybe that first weird goal catch, maybe you say, okay, we could figure that out, but the second goal is too easy for them.
Back to the zone for Red. Cartagena holding. Still the same group up front. That cup has not taken a sub yet. Lizzie Tilden, Ellie Jones, a great throw through the middle to Youngst. Now straight up by Halavity into the end zone for an uncontested Ellie Youngst score.
The incredible threads through the cup and Gridlock hold.
And that was looking, labored for a minute there. It was hard for Gridlock to get it past the half line, but as soon as they find the opening, Halavity to the disc, a gorgeous flick leading huck to Youngst there for the score, tying it up at 2-2.
Out of bounds, up or down on the ground. If a player is in or out of the end zone, if there are offsides calls on the pole.
I don't know. It doesn't look like Indy Red is too tired, Keith, from their doubleheader here. They're coming out swinging here.
By no means, although I do think that you probably won't see those effects until later in the game. It's going to be how well can you recover, how well can you maintain when it gets gritty. Most of these points have been fairly short, so I think everybody's still feeling pretty fresh. But it's unclear to me which team would have the advantage if we get into a grinding game, given the short number of legs available for the Gridlock.
Right. It looks like Red has, I think it's 8 more players than Gridlock tonight. So, yes, it depends. Where does the depth of the roster start to fall off? So, this is going to be every quarter of the game. I think we got something interesting for us to enjoy.
Again, back to that far sideline for Indy. And some perhaps defensive confusion right now. Tracy Lowe, the primary thrower for this red team, left unmarked. But a drop by Mast, about 11 yards outside of the attacking end zone. Going to give it to Jolie Krebs, who's looking deep immediately, but pump fakes and takes the swing. Inside break to Casey Bantarayan. Resets back to Krebs, and there's a pick call to stop play.
And this is an important chance for Gridlock to look to get this break. That would really change the tenor. If they don't take care of the disc and get it all the way back in, though, Red would be happy to make this a second. To get rid of Gridlock's only break chance thus far.
Krebs and De Jesus both playing with this D-line. Common crossovers as we see a diving grab by Estelle Ding. Sam Harris collects that cross-field throw from Krebs. Krebs tries to save Harris's forehand, but it's a little bit out of her reach.
Have another possession.
And this gives you a chance to see a little bit of what New York is up to on defense, as they are in a zone of their own. 3 players up front, 3 in the second layer, and Halavity patrolling deep. McGuire on the sideline. Quickly gets it off to Gerritzer. Certainly no hurry by this Red offense. Low with a quick continue.
Yeah, Red is looking relaxed. Just finding the holes.
Maddie Moore back to Corinne Rains. we may have another pick call. Teams made it. Usually when I see this many pick calls, Judy, I think that it's often an issue with spacing downfield.
Looks like there was a foul called on the field. Observers
right, things are getting a little crowded by the end zone.
Does seem like this one's going to be a foul, though you still can see a bit of a clump of players just off screen to your right now. Reset to Gerritzer. And then low up for the toe in from Matamore. And the Red gets another hold. And despite a turnover, they are back on the front foot, leading 3-2.
Oh, and Gridlock is not feeling good about that they had the break chance, that they were 2/3 of the way down the field. Indy got it back. Flo. This is the first turnover to give Gridlock the possession. The second turnover that gave Indy Red the possession back. And then after Indy worked it down the field, a very athletic grab from Matamore there to toe it in. And you can see there's a little bit of wind on this side of the field, a little bit of lift that the disc is doing in this end zone. But Red has done such a fantastic job of reading the disc. And they're feeling really good about this 3-2 score right now, including a break.
And that win that you mentioned, Judy, I think is why we're seeing New York often forcing towards that far sideline, hoping that they can get some help from that 8th defender.
That's right. And what do you think Gridlock needs to do here? I mean, maybe taking care of business on offense is one, but when they're on D again, what do they need to do to get that break in hand?
Well, they're right now they look like they're comfortable trying to force this Indy team to throw a lot of passes, but you know, when we talked to the coaching staff, they really said they want to apply some pressure to the under, see if they can force this Indy team into playing a deep game where they may be less comfortable. We'll see if we see some adjustments on that front. Judy, what do you make of this red zone thus far, which has generated a break, and they've stayed pretty steadfast with?
Well, it was effective right there, maybe not because of Red's efforts, but because of a miscue on the handlers. But I think it's forcing Gridlock to think a little bit too hard, not being as flowy as they usually are. There is a timeout called. It gives us a moment to talk about what just happened there. So after just 2 throws, Gridlock turns the disc against Indy's zone, and I think Indy would be thinking now, well, we're going to play this zone all game until Gridlock shows us a reason not to. Seeing a replay of Cartagena to Finley.
As you see different players potentially coming onto the field.
And this is just what every pass, even the shortest pass, introduces the risk of a mistake like this. I mean, this is the math equation that teams talk about all the time. Is it worth it to throw 198% completion percentage passes versus trying to send something downfield? We've seen very few deep throws from either side, really. So right now, this game has been a game of small ball.
And you can see on your screen here, we got a QR code to encourage you to support Gridlock by donating. This is such important. This is such an important nonprofit organization. The work of the Premier Ultimate League and all of its teams, all the athletes, all they put into this, help us support bringing you this great live stream content.
And a quick throw to the end zone out of the timeout gets masked on the goal line. Gerritzer declared not in, and she and Mass just try again and try again. Till they get to the end zone for another red break. And Judy, Indy has continued the work they started in Philly, rolling on the road. Are you surprised to see this Indy team coming out and playing this way?
Oh my goodness. Well, look at just the chemistry here and just the trust and finding the spots between Mass and Gurlitzer. We can't do it this way, we'll do it the other way. And I think that speaks to just the connection of the Indy Red players. Many of them have played together on club teams. There's quite a lot of new personnel on the team this year, but many of them have experience playing together. I think they're just playing with a confidence and a joy right now that's allowing them to not look one bit tired from a doubleheader. And in fact, just having had the experience of winning such a tight, good game last night, they might just be more ready, that it's an advantage.
Baker Street Health provides the Gridlock players and staff with behavioral health, sport, and performance psychology, as well as podiatry services. They are located throughout New Jersey and are available for telehealth in over 35 states. From head to toe, their team is covered with Baker Street Health. We'll have to try and watch some of the detail here from this zone, because I'm surprised to see Indy just stay with the exact same look over and over. I know that the old idiom is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I think if you run the same thing out there, you risk the other teams trying to unlock it a bit. But Indy really trusting that they're going to be able to make the adjustments in counter.
I mean, it's true, because you look at these handlers on Gridlock, and I mean, these are threading, shredding handlers. I mean, these are not, elementary handlers. So Indy has a lot of faith in their zone.
Krebs eating up yards and now forcing a transition to matchup defense from the red in the red zone. Lavity, another pick call downfield, and
there's a pick called on the field. Players are repositioning.
Lavity, though, unmarked, so wondering if the pick will affect play.
Some discussion with our observers about probably the timing and whether or not that pick affects Halavity's possession.
There's certainly the observers are giving their money's worth here. Getting referenced pretty frequently with these pick calls. Back to Cartagena. Inside break to Krebs. And the quick continue to Jesus. And that is a hold for New York.
And a very different offensive flow there, that Gridlock was really able to move the disc faster, better, wider than in the other points to make that goal happen. Let's see it again. Cartagena looking at different options. A beautiful inside flick to Krebs. And Krebs getting us off quickly to make sure that De Jesus is open for the score.
To ensure trans individuals have access to the legal support they deserve. 100% of the commission will be donated to the
And De Jesus is the highest scorer on Gridlock, so I'm sure we'll be seeing her, saying her last name quite a bit today. And I think also the top scorer in the league as well.
Yeah, that gets De Jesus to 21 goals with a pair in this game.
And now this is where Gridlock really needs to do some work. So they are down 2 breaks here, but it's still early in the game. We've seen them in other games come back after being down, but it's essential to not let the first quarter go by without answering with a break of their own.
And a turnover for Indy, so a chance to get back into this one. Grace Connerly going to ground to save that one. Inside break from Connerly. Nikki Hare up to Cartagena. And Cartagena with the continue to Connerly. And Gridlock breaks back. Their first of the game to tie it back up.
Gridlock is feeling happy about that one. A great play from Connerly all throughout that point. Getting it to Cartagena. And into Connerly for the goal, for the break.
Folks, as you see, there's only 2
and Gridlock is back in this game now.
the way that works in the PUL is with the running clock when the quarter comes to
So
an
we're close to the end of the quarter here, and the rules in the Premier Ultimate League are that at the end of the first 3 quarters, whoever has possession when the clock goes to 0 can play it out until a goal or until a turnover. It's different only in the final quarter where it's just the buzzer is the end of the game. So with 2 minutes to play, I mean, you could see Indy Red being able to, like one of their early points, so pass, huck, score. I mean, they could score under the 2, but it might be in their best interest here to keep their hands on the disc, make sure to give Gridlock no other chances in this quarter.
Still being forced towards that far sideline, the backhand side of the field. Although it's a forehand for the lefty. Tracy Lowe, they get it up to Gerritzer. Now touch for Eliza Hutchings. Does a nice job getting it off the sideline. And Red all the way around to that far sideline. A hanger that McGuire tracks down. Gerritzer, an uncontested throw into the end zone and another drop for Indy. Their third of the game. All 3 of their turnovers have been unforced drops.
And the Gridlock seem to have called timeout so they can sub in their offensive line here.
So Gridlock's got the whole field to go, but they have offensive possession. They're calling a timeout. In the Premier Ultimate League rules, you can sub as many folks as you like on a timeout. And I'm wondering about those 3 uncontested drops, Keith, that maybe that is about the doubleheader, because this is a team of Indy Red, just excellent receivers. I mean, these are not people who, can't catch a really tough disc. But we see here again, the pass upfield, a little floaty, and just couldn't get it in. Squid or Sydney Lochran surely wants that back. And I'm going to guess they're going to throw the zone again, Keith.
Yeah, with a chance to do so through this break, this may be a chance for them to adapt their strategy. This PUL presentation also sponsored by Discraft.
The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports.
Gridlock with a critical chance to break. And Judy, how much are you thinking about the clock in a situation like this?
Yeah, I mean, Gridlock, they just shouldn't rush, right? You have possession with the count dropping down, but it is kind of a psychological challenge when you can see the clock as the athletes to tell yourself, take a breath, we have to keep possession.
And I also think that is probably impacting Red's decision not to go with the zone. Don't want to give them a chance to take a slow, methodical possession.
Very true.
Cartagena in the center of the field. So we're down to 15 seconds. Krebs looking at the end zone for DeJesus. That's a target she's never going to turn down. And another break, 3 straight scores now for the Gridlock as they take their first lead of the game.
And just what a beautiful flick huck from Krebs. Just seeing her target so clearly, giving enough loft that even though the Indy player is there, it's just easy money for DeJesus, and a big smile after that score and that break.
And metabolic health in New York and Connecticut. Dr. Caroline Messer's team is dedicated to a mind and body approach to wellness.
All right, so Gridlock up by 1 point, but like we're talking about the end of the quarter, it's whoever has possession when it's 0 gets to keep going. So Indy absolutely has the ability to score to finish this quarter, and you better believe they want it.
And again, no time pressure for them. They'll have a chance to finish this possession. Indy will receive to start the second quarter, so they can notch one here. And their offense, aside from these phantom drops, has been pretty clean. They've had some great possessions.
Time has expired. That means this Indy Red possession will be the final
Lowe,
possession
though,
of
pinned to the sideline by that roller. A nice job finding a release, and Lowe able to sling that forehand wide across the field. They get it back. And now looking deep, but Cassie Brown with the poach, and the help defense works.
Well, that is some great defense for Brown, just getting in the right spot, even though, not as tall as some of the other receivers down there. The quarter finishes with Gridlock finding the lead, 5-4. Keith, what's standing out to you in this first quarter of competition? Oh, let's see a replay first, then you can answer that question. So the big lefty backhand looking for Tilo's receiver there, but Cassie Brown on Gridlock able to get up and disrupt that goal. Keith, what are the standouts from the first quarter for you?
Well, obviously Indy's zone was really effective, and I'll be curious to see how they continue to utilize or change that strategy as they move forward. But I wonder if we're going to see these defenses fire up. We're seeing a pretty passive game defensively, despite all the turnovers that we have seen. So far, 7 different turnovers, but that Brown block was the first block of the game.
That's right. We're seeing a lot of kind of self-wounds on the team here.
And with the first quarter over, we've got a dramatic one here in New York. We'll see who will hold on as we march towards the postseason.
We got some sweet sweatbands, some PUL sweatbands.
I'm so impressed by the conditioning of this Gridlock team. They look very well seasoned, and in spite of the relative heat and the lots and lots of reps, they're just continuing to go full throttle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were looking at these two teams, I don't know if I'd be able to tell which one was playing more relative points per person. So I am really impressed with their clear conditioning, their hard work that has brought them here.
This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete Collab shops. All right, Judy, this Gridlock team starting on defense, and maybe would prefer that as they finish the first quarter with a block. Although this pull hangs out of bounds, and you can see the disc still favoring that far sideline. I feel like most of this game has occurred in that quarter slice of the field.
Absolutely, and I bet we'll see that force to that direction again here from Gridlock as they set up person defense. There it is.
Deep shot going up from Reigns.
A tip from Harris.
Knocked away.
And the Gridlock have a defensive chance to score.
I think Sam Harris may have heard us saying, oh, there's not been enough defensive action here, and they got up to make sure that huck play was not completed by Indy Red. So Gridlock has a break chance right away at the start of the second quarter.
Gridlock has been pretty efficient, breaking in 2 straight chances. Although most of the time they've done that with the presence of some of their O-line personnel, which is not the case on this point. Although Finley is probably a steady O-line player, but the biggest names on their team not on the field. Be a great break for them. Tough grab by leaping Banter Ryan, who's made 2 nice aerial plays now. Then a beautiful reset off the line to Finley. Finley, high stall, and under duress, forced to try and send that quickly.
Though overall, that D-line looking like really clean and smooth there. Just one miscue at the end there from Finley.
Gerritzer, soft break up to Brown, and that sets up a deep shot. This one from Raines is completed.
There's a pick
call as McGuire gets it a yard outside the end zone. McGuire's throw, unintended target, but Loughran with a chance to pull that in, but unable to do so. And we have our first offensive unit with multiple turnovers and a point. Lowe sprinting to poach into that throwing lane.
And we'll see more of that person defense from Red.
Connerly looking deep and unable to find Chelsea Leader, well defended by Gerritzer, who had the position the whole way. Stuffing it up the sideline. Now potentially some discussion about this one.
Starting to feel like a slog in this point. You know, most of the other points have been pretty efficient, even with a turn.
Looks like there was some
The
contact.
first time that we felt that way. And unable to complete that. They're stuck on that sideline, and you see the effect of that matchup defense.
And was that a D from Nikki Hare there, or was that a miss?
Hard for me to tell in the crowd.
But at least some great pressure from Hare and other defenders there.
Timeout to change over some legs in this tight point, and we'll see some of the defense. Harris able to knock that one away. But this Gridlock defense is finding some success in their matchup form.
Banter Ryan's great grab there, and then we see Finley with the disc, just flying down, you know, the right angle for the cut and the throw, but the disc pushed down. Then Indy Red, you know, 2 possible receivers that couldn't get it. Another boost from Gridlock, beautifully defended by number 18, Laura Gerritzer. And then the final D. So this has been a back and forth kind of point. Makes sense to have a team calling a timeout. We are back in the point with Gridlock possession.
And back to the zone for Red. I guess this is for them. This is the red zone. Aha!
Oh,
I did it, folks.
We were waiting when it would come through.
I did it. Still have the 3 players up front. Although downfield, 2 players in that second layer, and then 2 players kind of hanging deep, nearly able to spy a block. Cartagena in the middle. And Krebs so good at motoring through with her legs through that front layer, instead of trying to throw it through every time. Instead, throwing and then going and running her way through for the continue. Youngst, as Red transitions up to Krebs.
Krebs is everywhere.
Around to Cartagena, who patiently directs the offense. Youngst resets. Finley now in the middle. 10 yards out, up to Krebs. And Krebs no pivots to Youngst, who fights off the poach block. And that's another New York break. They have scored 4 goals in a row to go up 6-4.
Let's see that again. Finley getting into Krebs. Krebs with the break to Junks, which was well guarded. I mean, Junks was able to really pull that in, make sure it was a goal. But the story at that point to me is Krebs. Turn on the wheels, opened up a lot of space on the field, broke through the wall, and just some great motion from Gridlock to get them a break there. But it was not easy.
Not much has been easy in this game, as you would expect from teams of this caliber. Again, these two teams competing for seeding in the postseason ostensibly. The winner will face the Raleigh Radiants at PUL Championship Weekend in Milwaukee, while the loser will face Washington, D.C. Shadow in the opening round. D.C. has won in back-to-back semifinals. Has been a frequent guest at Championship Weekend and championship contention. But it's New York who is the reigning champs. Low. Underneath. Michigan alum. Breaks off the line with that wide lefty forehand. Kenny Rosenthal resets back to Tila. And another drop. These are plaguing red. This one from Matamore.
It's just tough when you get made progress so far down the field.
Immediate deep shot from Cartagena. This one hangs, and Laverica not able to get a good read on it. Nice pressure from the defense, making that job much harder. Low. Up ahead to Raines. Geritzer tucks her way into the upline space, and now looking deep for Matamore, and Matamore with a contested catch. McGuire with her team on the break, although Mast will slow things down. Mast playing with the Team USA at the World Ultimate Championships, and now showing those national team stripes as she gets near the end zone. And we've seen this two-person game between Geritzer and Mast, and so is Gridlock. This time they said, we're not going to let you get away with this one.
It was a kind of merry-go-round give and go, but pick called by Gridlock.
Doesn't stop the same look from going off as Geritzer gets into the end zone for her first goal on her second connection with Mast.
Showing some grit on Indiana Red there after, a rough drop here. Having to get on defense. Cartagena's big huck, had some great pressure to get the turn back. Indy's possession, they huck. A really tough catch. I mean, just a lot of these balls in the air are wobbly, and Indy's able to get it down, do some small ball for the score. And interestingly, it reminds me, Keith, when we were talking to the Gridlock coaches, they were saying part of what they wanted to do with the defense is pressure the unders and force Indy Red to huck. So we are seeing that happen. Indy Red is hucking, and they're not always, putting up the, a 90% huck, but so many of their receivers are talented enough to grab even the tough hucks and make it work for a hard-fought point there, making it a one-point game again.
Not a super tall team, but have shown some capability when getting off the ground. Zone, and then that throw missing the intended target, but Youngst is there to clean it up. Cartagena now in the middle. I love the way the handlers are continuously moving around as well. Great block by Red.
What a beaut. Knew it was coming that time.
And here comes a timeout probably to sub in the offense for Indy after Rachel Graver's diving block gets on the disc.
We're seeing Gridlock feeling more comfortable with the zone now. So just in the last couple of possessions, able to move the disc well. But Krebs eking the disc through. Not that time. She got the first one through to Youngs, but the second one well read by Indy Red. And I think it's really a terrific zone because they've got a lot of great work at the front. I'll pause for this.
Shout out to Gridlock sponsor Well by Messer, the premier metabolic and wellness health center for metabolic health in New York and Connecticut. Under the leadership of Manhattan-based endocrinologist Dr. Caroline Messer, her team of endocrinologists, adult and pediatric, internists, dermatologists, urologists, gynecologists, and psychologists, registered dietitians and trainers. Woo! That's a lot of different features. They're all dedicated to a mind-body approach to wellness. At Well by Messer, their goal is to support successful outcomes through a personalized and balanced approach that utilizes evidence-based medicines and wellness.
And we're back after the timeout. A lot of personnel swaps with Indy in possession.
And I think maybe our second time seeing New York try this zone look, and they do get a turnover.
Gridlock zone coming out of the timeout, proven too challenging.
So a wasted break opportunity with the offense on the field. Now it's the O-line that's going to have to work to play defense. Grabs up to Harris. But the throw back. Finley just a little too far ahead. Nice job by Gridlock, however, to transition back into their look, even with Red picking up the disc quickly. Matamore gets up to secure that one with two hands. Low, big gainer up the sideline, looking for McGuire, who's forced to lay out.
What a catch, McGuire!
McGuire has a way of making the spectacular look routine. Matamore into the end zone, and there's Rachel Mast for the score.
Finally find that
Mast
score.
with her second goal of the game
at 6.
for a break.
Indy is back in, tying up the game with that break. Quite a lot of action in that point. I just got to give a shout out to Kat McGuire. Athleticism that we've been seeing today. Just such a tough catch. Let's see what happened with the turn here. Gridlock was on the doorstep of a goal, gave it back to Red. Big boost upfield. This is the one. Kat McGuire saved the possession with some good pressure from Benta Ryan. And a floating, beautiful disc into Mast for the score.
And a brutal error for Gridlock. Those red zone turnovers that go all the way the other way have to sting, especially when they're giving up a break.
It really hurts. Their zone was looking good. You know, set it for both parts of that point, Gridlock. But Indy able to get through it and then finish with ease.
Mass now with 2 goals and 2 assists. They were almost 2 quarters of play. So we're coming down to the 2-minute mark. I'm sure there's somebody using a numerology or something watching this. Lavity wide. This is where we see this zone try and get a little more aggressive. Attempt to trap. Now you see there is some pressure on the reset, although it feels like a bit of a double team on the disc.
Yeah, Indy doing a good job of shutting down the first and second layer of options. So the handlers don't have a lot to work with here.
Yeah, we've seen some moments where the Gridlock have been very fluid and able to get rid of the disc quickly, and tamped down right now by Indy's defense.
And this is where you really need your wings on Gridlock to get active. And look, there comes Halavity, widen up the game to make it hard for Indy.
There's a long throw up to Youngst to maybe break open the zone. That does draw a transition from Red, but Halavity, really with not a lot of options, find some space for Krebs. Now Halavity all the way on the far sideline, pointing downfield. Youngst breaks free from the vert stack. Not a lot of pressure on these marks. So New York's getting the chance to move the disc horizontally, but not gaining a ton of yards.
Looks like there's a foul.
Tangle up
the
here
field.
in the stack.
Observers will adjudicate. Folks, there's one more
And this is where Gridlock should feel their most comfortable, Keith. The vert stack in the last third of the field. But the Cutters look a little bit gassed right now. So even having a call right here might help them take a breath.
For a throwing competition. Anyone who'd like to participate, if you are a youth player, come up to the 50-yard line right as the first half ends.
Youngst out of the stoppage. Cartagena wide to Finley. 3 yards outside of the end zone. High pass to Jesus, and trusts that the star cutter is going to come down with the goal.
At this time, any and all youth players who'd like to compete.
And Cartagena really opened up that possession. So a really nice inside flick to get some yards after that. After what there was discussion about a call, that allowed Gridlock to get to that red zone and score. Let's see it again. So that slicing. Oh, this is a little later, but yes, Finley with the disc, outside in, rainbow catch for DeJesus, who has to go way high under pressure from Indy to make that a goal.
Yeah, well challenged, but DeJesus tough to stop. Now up to 4 goals for Gridlock, and you can see why she's top of the tables. Great score for Gridlock. They're up 1 at the break, looking to take the #1 spot here in the division in the Premier Ultimate League.
Ultimate is something that helps me regulate my mental health. Playing with Joy is huge for me. It's something that just helps me touch grass literally, but also just have a good time with friends in a competitive environment.
I think that being able to play Ultimate Frisbee at a young age has done a lot for my mental health, and to show me that I am capable of being confident at something and being able to pursue it and believe that I'm good at it.
To me, mental health means being in community and asking for help when we need it.
Volar en un avión era mi mayor sueño. ¿Cómo se sentiría estar en el cielo? Me imaginaba surcando las nubes. Para mí, eso era libertad. Desde pequeña, supe que no encajaba como las demás chicas. Cuando empecé a jugar, era la única chica del equipo. El simple hecho de estar en el campo de juego era un acto de resistencia. Tuve que luchar por obtener esta oportunidad. No nos define nuestro pasado, sino la fuerza que se necesita para seguir adelante y crear algo mejor.
I'm so impressed by the conditioning of this Gridlock team. They look very well seasoned, and in spite of the relative heat and the lots and lots of reps, they're just continuing to go full throttle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were looking at these two teams, I don't know if I'd be able to tell which one was playing more relative points per person. So I am really impressed with their clear conditioning, their hard work that has brought them here.
Gridlock up 7-6 as we get ready to start the third quarter here in this Premier Ultimate League contest at Facina Field. And this game is presented by Discraft. The Discraft Ultra Star is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. This live broadcast of the Premier Ultimate League is brought to you by Breakmark Ultimate Apparel. Go to breakmark.com to place your next custom team order or check out the PUL Athlete Collab shops. And in honor of Pride Month, the New York Gridlock and the other PUL teams have created a new jersey design, Defend Trans Rights, a legal advocacy initiative to ensure trans individuals have access to the legal support they deserve, sponsored by the New York jerseys. The jerseys are available on the Breakmark website, so check out NewYorkGridlock.com for more details. 100% of the proceeds will be donated to the Trevor Project. Judy, we got off to a great start. If you're looking for an upset, Red come out with a break, but it's the Gridlock who are in front as we go into the third. A lot of zone from this Red team. What are you expecting to see in the second half?
I think they're going to stick with this zone because it's been quite effective against Gridlock, and I think it's only going to be when Gridlock really slices and dices it that Indy's going to choose to turn to person. They came out in the first quarter with a break, and so I think they're looking for that as well here. What are you liking about the Indy zone? What are you kind of seeing the strategy of it, Keith?
Well, so it's really flat in the middle of the field, try and force a lot of passes. The front wall is really active. But then when they get near either sideline, they do apply a lot more pressure. There's a little bit of unpredictability to when they're going to try and jump into the reset space, and that keeps teams off balance. Does look like we're going to get a mix-up here as Indy's coming out with a matchup look. We have not seen a ton of that.
I think this is actually really smart because Gridlock spent that halftime, no doubt, talking about how do we break through the zone, and Indy come in and saying, oh, we got a lot of different things to show you.
But much like on the first point of the game, in the first half, Gridlock has just been walking it backwards, reset after reset. Finley pushes one up the far sideline for a diving Krebs. Now pick call.
Pick call, players are repositioning.
Seems like the Cutters are relying a lot on the handlers for motion here and not giving a ton of options, so Gridlock probably looking to adjust that for the rest of this point.
Both of these teams fighting to take the number one spot in the North Division. Now up the sideline to Krebs. Krebs, throw to space for Halavity, and it works perfectly. And get more Jolie Krebs in this game.
Loving Halavity's celebration. The start of that point looked a little bit tentative for Gridlock, like they were getting stuck and kind of stiff. And then as soon as they hit about half field there, they were really flowing with the Cutters, kind of remembering who they were, who they are, and who Krebs is someone who loves to huck it. So here we go, the big grab, Krebs on the far side of the field, centers it to Halavity. A little later in the point to Jesus, to Krebs. Thinks about it and shoots. Halavity with a great grab. The first point of the third quarter to Gridlock.
And when you hear about the big names on this Gridlock team, I know sometimes maybe it feels like they're overemphasized, but you look at the stat sheet. De Jesus has 4 goals. Now Krebs has 4 assists. 2 more assists for Gina Cartagena. They are collecting big numbers. Ellie Youngst also with a pair of goals. And the stats don't lie. This is a team that has some of the league's best talent. That has been a big driver of success.
And impressive that they've had so much success with a small squad, both this year and last year. Gridlock has taken kind of a different approach to numbers than many other teams, and it's been working for them.
Banner year for Indy Red, coming off their big win last night over Philadelphia Surge, and now a big throw downfield to Tracy Lowe, and it dies before they can get their hands underneath it.
This break would really hurt for Red, so their D is pumped up.
But Mast earns it back Now flowing offense for Red after the turn. Up ahead to Gerritzer on the far sideline. Mast up line to Gerritzer. And not in, though.
Reserve rule's not in.
Gerritzer with not a lot of room. Doesn't need much.
Punch it in, and that's a hold.
Mast up the line, and that's a bookends for Rachel Mast. Continues to have her fingerprints all over this game.
And Gerritzer and Mast together are quite a duo. They have done a lot of fancy footwork in the red zone throughout this game, including this last score. Let's see it again. A boost upfield to Tracy Lowe. Just can't get it with the angle of that disc. Gridlock launches one. Great read by Mast. Gerlitzer right on the line. Uncomfortable 3 Gridlock folks in that space, but Gerlitzer able to get it off to Mast for the score, making it a 1-point game again. Every time Gridlock gets comfortable, Keith, Indy comes back with a punch.
And neither team going away from, even when they've been trailing, they've stayed pretty gritty and tight on each other's tails. And we keep seeing New York trying to pressure Indy into being stuck on that far sideline. But Indy's done such a nice job attacking directly up that line, and that's allowing them to play even in a thin part of the field. At some point, New York's going to have to take away some of those upline throws if they want that strategy to work. Rolling pull from Mylink. And hustling down. It's bold to me to have your puller also be in the front of your defense, but Mylink hustling into position and back into this zone look from the red. Cartagena, Colombian superstar, getting ready for the World Games. She'll be playing with the Colombian team in Chengdu, China. Cartagena again with the disc. Over to Finley. Great move by De Jesus, absolutely shaking the defender. Finley in the middle, dropped. Drops have been a problem for both teams. And a red zone opportunity gone by the wayside for New York. Big break chance for Indy.
Absolutely, this could change the tenor of the game. If Red ties it up with a break right here, that's pretty demoralizing, and they're looking for it.
Lily Hobday gaining a lot of yards for Indy. One of the younger players on the roster. Playing at Notre Dame. Up the line to Mylink.
A lot of contested catches.
Strong hands, though, from Rachel Graber. And a diving save from Mylink.
An incredible grab.
And applause to Mylink. What an incredible grab, but taking an injury here. Looks like she hit the ground hard. It's giving everybody a moment to breathe. This has been a long point, end zone to end zone, both ways.
Mylink's played a great game today. Not a player who shows up on the stat sheet a lot. It's just a couple of stats through the season, but is the team's central puller, plays great defense, and obviously is part of the offensive motor for the D-line when they do get a chance to stay on the field. Shows that you can make big contributions, even if you're not scoring and assisting a lot of them. Here's Nikki. Trying to reset, but pressured, and a turnover.
Great pressure by Youngst there, making what could have been an easy catch really difficult.
Cartagena gets over to Finley. Krebs breaking free in the deep space, but throw goes underneath. And now it's Krebs who's going to put it up, looking for Youngst. And that's how the Gridlock want to see him go in. They go up 9-7.
And Youngst deserves that goal there after playing some great defense. There was a Callahan connection there. Krebs to Youngst. Some of the best players in the world on the field right here, right now. We're seeing the incredible save by Mylink there to keep possession. But then a drop there. Bantarayan upfield to Krebs. Krebs, a beautiful arcing throw to Youngst for the goal. Oof, and Indy had their chances there, Keith. That hurts. That really hurts to now have Gridlock up 2 points when you could have had the tie. How do you think Indy will respond here?
We'll see what they got, because their O-line has been pretty consistent. They have not seemed to shake their identity at all. You know, they have been operating with kind of the same premise throughout the game, but some of those errors have just been a real problem for them. Quick stoppage, though. Back underway. Big wide throw, but it pops up. So does McKenna Mattenworth. She's got some springs. Low, looking deep. Has a target. Well read by Rains. And then a quick give and go. Rains gets the goal. Rosenthal with the assist, but big plays from across the line for Red.
Yeah, Indy Red showing that, they're not taking this quietly, that they're going to have a really smooth O possession, showing a lot of different talent there in that point. This game remains a battle, Keith. It's really exciting. Let's see again. Tracy Lowe's big boost. And a little give and go. Rosenthal to Rains for the score.
Corinne Rains, part of the small Ohio State alum contingent on this Red roster. This Red team kind of pulls from all around Indianapolis and the surrounding states, with players from Michigan and Ohio.
And isn't there someone from your state on this team, Keith?
Indeed. Getting ready to pull right now. Ellie Joes, I believe, Cincinnati native who's got some ties to this Red organization. So even though she's much closer to playing with this New York team from a location standpoint, has moved from practice player into a key part of this Red D-line this season.
We see the person again from Indy.
Speaking of Ohio State, here's Nina Finley. And there's Cartagena looking for Halavity. And that one maybe hanging at the end there, but
this wind is
too
doing
far
some
out
strange
in front.
things. If you can see that flag outside
A little
the
too much
entrance,
zip
you can
at
see
the
that
end there, but
direction
all
has
in all,
totally
great
changed
flow
from
on the
first
Gridlock
half.
offense. And if they can keep it here,
Players are struggling
they
to
would be very pleased. But Indy is hoping to make this a break.
Red looking for their fourth break. Another dive and grab. This time it's Risa Umeno. Diving attempt by Krebs comes up short. Joes continues to Umeno. Red's D-line has not gotten to play a lot of offense in this game. Feel like they have been pretty aggressive about getting the offensive line in. And maybe they needed them.
Having a game right here, the run through D.
Turns out being fast is good for more than just scoring goals.
And And she's also just put a lot of great pressure on her opponent. So that's the first kind of big run through that she's had. But all throughout this great game, excellent DNO from Ella Jungst.
So Red trying to get their 4th break. You know, in the first half, Judy, we had almost as many breaks as holds. 6 breaks, 7 holds. Since then, however, this second half has begun with 4 straight holds.
Yeah, and even when the holds have come with a back and forth, you know, there may have been a turn in between there. And here we're seeing the last play. Gridlock has possession, called a timeout, swap in personnel. And we'll see what Indy wants to do. They're changing their defense a bit more this half, Keith. And here's our reminder that if you're enjoying this live stream, please consider donating 20, 10, 30, 50, whatever you can to New York Gridlock. Scan this QR code on your screen and help us continue to bring all this great athleticism into your home.
Team's got a trip to Milwaukee ahead of them. And those cost a little bit.
Indy Red back to the zone out of the timeout.
Finley puts one through the middle and too high, knocked away. Nice job by Riley Kuznicki. But right back the other way.
It's good.
We said that this wind can have a tendency to pop up. It was not a huge factor in the beginning of the game, but right now it is becoming a big player.
Yeah, 3 discs in a row are really difficult to hold on to because of the wind. Oh, make that 4.
Bunch of turnover both ways.
So, chance now for Gridlock to try and hold, but a great time to be playing zone, I guess. Big cross-field throw from Krebs. Now the gainer up to Halavity. Finley unmarked. As Red struggling to transition. Tough grab by Halavity on the sideline. And then the cross-field throw looking for DeJesus. And the diving grab is unsuccessful.
Just out of the reaching arms of DeJesus.
Gridlock looking very confident with an offensive possession where the wind is really a factor, including Halavity's big boost. There's a little bit but too much slice there, but the Gridlock offense doing a great job getting the disc all the way to this end zone and now forcing Indy to work really hard if they want this break.
Deep shot. This is turning into a jump ball, and that has been an area in which Indy has been very successful. Nice grab by Jalen Baumgartner. Abde over to Kuznicki, and there is a timeout as Red gets close to the end zone. They're going to want to get their offense on the field.
This has been a long point, Keith. We've had quite a bit of back and forth here. The wind really coming in as another player. And also seeing Indy kind of changing things up a little bit, boosting it when they don't typically. So I'll show you a collection of throws involving the wind. Just probably the messiest point we've seen here in a really great game. Some overthrows. This one very close, just a rough angle. And so it's a little bit about attrition here. You know, who's gonna keep trying? 6 athletes up there. And Baumgartner pulling it out. And we have Indy's possession in the last third of the field to go. Can they handle this wind all the way into the end zone?
key possession here for Indy as we're winding down the third. And a drop, another one for Indy. Reigns with the error, and perhaps that is, you mentioned it earlier, perhaps it is that second day of a back-to-back showing the lack of focus.
But then a gift from Gridlock right back to Indy on the red line.
Another red zone opportunity for this Indy O-line. Subbed in for the break chance, and they get it. Matamore on the score.
Oh, that is really important for Red staying in this game right now, Keith, to bring it to a tie right towards the end of the third after just a lot of self-wounds from both teams, including this last one from Gridlock that just was made it easy for Indy to just do some small ball into the end zone. Reigns to Matamore, big celebration, big sigh of relief from that Indy line. We still got a game here. And this is where our questions from the beginning, you know, who has the stamina for this game? I think that's part of what we're going to see in this next quarter and a sliver.
Yeah, this is going to be a different type of test for these teams. The short roster of New York up against the 2 games in 2 days that Red is facing, both on the road. And Jackie Laya, coach of the Indy Red, talked about how challenging it is just to play on the road in general. You know, you're running on little sleep, you're dealing with the travel, but how you're doing on back-to-back games against 2 of the best teams in the league is a really difficult task.
And you can even hear the wind in the audio.
35 seconds remaining. No stoppage.
The foul call downfield.
Foul call downfield. It is looking like New York's going to get the final possession if they can hold on for just a few more seconds. And they've scored the last goal in every quarter.
That's right, but this quarter is the trickiest with the wind. There's no second chances, though.
Cartagena. Back to Krebs.
With time expired in the quarter, this possession will be the final of this quarter.
Over to Youngst.
Turnover.
Youngst on the trap sideline, but finds a release valve from Cartagena. Cartagena's throws cover such a big distance of width on the mark. The mark has to cover so much space to take the break side away from her. Krebs, hammer fakes to open up some shallow space. And then one-on-one, just so hard to cover. And that is a third time that New York has scored the final goal of the quarter. And they are up 1 going into the fourth as they host the Red in the final game of the regular season.
And what patience on the final possession there. You've got the wind. There's been a lot of recent errors that Gridlock is certainly well aware of and not wanting to replicate, but they're able to be so calm. And I think a lot of that emanates from Cartagena. Here she is in the middle, distributing it to Krebs, who waits for the right moment to Youngst. And then Krebs gets in the stack, quick foot, in front of DeJesus, finds the disc. She had her eye on the prize. The third quarter, 10-9.
Also, it is something that helps me regulate my mental health. Playing with joy is huge for me. It's something that just helps me touch grass literally, but also just have a good time with friends in a competitive environment.
I think that being able to play Ultimate Frisbee at a young age has done a lot for my mental health and to show me that I am capable of being confident at something and being able to pursue it and believe that I'm good at it.
To me, mental health means being in community and asking for help when you need it.
I'm so impressed by the conditioning of this Gridlock team. They look very well seasoned, and in spite of the relative heat and the lots and lots of reps, they're just continuing to go full throttle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were looking at these two teams, I don't know if I'd be able to tell which one was playing more relative points per person. So I am really impressed with their clear conditioning, their hard work that has brought them here.
Fourth quarter getting ready to begin in what has been a taut contest between the visiting Indy Red and the home reigning champion New York Gridlock.
This has been such a terrific game, Keith, because you could see Gridlock feeling like we're already in the playoffs. We can just be loose. Let's talk about Baker Street, though.
Baker Street Health provides Gridlock players and staff with behavioral health, sport and performance psychology, as well as podiatry services. They're located throughout New Jersey and are available for telehealth in over 35 states. From head to toe, the Gridlock is covered with Baker Street Health. And right now, Indy is covered. Gridlock defense poaching the lane, giving up the free reset. But Tilo wants it all, going for Matamore, who's just been dominant in the air. Nobody can get up with McKenna Matamore right now. And she puts it in the end zone for another Rachel Mass score. And what an emphatic way for Indy to start the fourth quarter.
What a great play from Indy, just different than many of their other offensive approaches. Here's Tilo's boost. Matamore boxing out really effectively. Mass not hesitating to take it into the end zone. Boom, boom, boom. That is the way to start the quarter, with a punch. And what we were talking about earlier, that you could see Gridlock coming in and being kind of, we're already in, who cares? We're loose, we can, be confident. You could also see Indy coming in being exhausted from, the performance of their life last night. But actually, we're finding that both teams are really bringing it here tonight, Keith.
Yeah, it's we've seen this springy, aggressive Indy Red team able to win a lot of these air battles, and I wonder how much of that's some of the missing personnel from New York. You think about some of the players that they are missing: Montana Roberts, Liv Player, Abby Hecko. These are players who are really strong in the air and great defenders, even if they are sometimes playing on the offensive unit. But maybe that's exposed a little bit. Eli Pressburg also not playing, another big player who could be effective downfield on defense. I wonder if maybe this set of personnel maybe isn't as well suited to battle on these jump balls.
I think so. I mean, you've seen great D from Ella Jungs, but she's not bringing the vertical D necessarily. So Red is right to put those high balls up and go get them.
Speaking of high, that throw from Finley gets over the head of Marin. Nearly turfed on the first uncontested throw, but Hobday says that's up, and the observers agree.
And it's a timeout from Red.
And again, Indy taking a timeout to bring in the O-line.
Red with a chance to go up 11-10 if they can finish in the red zone here. So they're going to be putting in their top offensive squad to get this done.
Nina Finley, the veteran presence on this group, but is playing her first game back with the Gridlock in this season. And maybe some rust. That's 4 turnovers for Finley, who's usually a really sure-handed presence in the backfield for this New York squad.
Just see it's a little too high to grab easily. And that looks almost a little too low, but as long as you get possession under the disc before it touches the ground, the disc is up, and so the observers felt that was so. Indy has possession mere yards from their end zone.
Gerenser getting ready to bring it in for a score that could put Indy back in front. They broke to open this game to go up 1-0. A bit of a surprise, a bit of a stunner. Can they break on their first D point of the fourth quarter? Get in front. Quick offline to Raines, and then Gerritzer to McGuire, and the flip into the end zone to Raines. Red back in the lead.
And Indy Red is fired up. That was a huge break for the team. You know, their legs are sore, but when you're fired up, there's so much that your mental game can do. And we see here, getting right up on the line, McGuire to Raines for the score.
Now, Judy, what would be the implications here of an upset by this red team? That beating Philly and New York back-to-back on the road, would you start to have to look at this red team as not just a contender, but potentially a favorite? I mean, DC's got such big numbers on the board. New York's got the background, the big star players, some of whom may not be able to play a championship weekend with some of the other international competition going on. Would this red team start to be one of the favorites to win the title this year?
This win would be huge for Red. I think this is a team that's been thoroughly underestimated this season, and they play with a kind of, you know, it's not necessarily, of course they have tons of great players, but they have a kind of chemistry that where the other teams might have big single names that if they're there or not there, it makes a difference. So I think if Red pulls this off after beating Surge and potentially beating Gridlock, teams are going to take notice, and that is going to be a playoffs weekend not to miss.
And something that we talked about prior to the game that kind of parallels these two teams is a real influx of talent, of new talent over the past 2 seasons or so. For New York, they bring in the Colombian contingent. They bring in some of these players like Ella Youngston, Abby Hecko, big-time college players. And then on the other side, this red team has this hybrid base group from the mixed club champions, Ann Arbor Hybrid. And that group really paces their O-line with Tracy Lowe, Laura Gerritzer, McGuire into the end zone for Krebs for a quick hold for the Gridlock. But I think you can see how these two teams' fortunes have really changed over these past 2 seasons as they have really changed their identities in some ways behind those players.
Right, and that might be the playbook that we're seeing more and more in the Premier Ultimate League, that these are really short seasons. So how do you become dominant as a team? Yes, you may have these amazing players, but if they haven't played together, if they don't have chemistry, versus taking clusters of players that know each other well, you know, the Exist cluster, the Bent cluster, the Ann Arbor, you know, hybrid cluster, I think it is really a winning strategy when these seasons are so short. Seeing a replay here, Cartagena into Krebs for the score. And while we were doing all of our analysis of the league, there was a beautiful possession by Gridlock here, just being able to move down the field with ease.
So the short seasons, I mean, you've experienced yourself as a player, Judy. Does it, like, to me, it almost seems closer to what you might experience playing like on the U24 team or something like that, where you're really compressed into getting better over the course of a tournament and change, versus what players experience in college and club, where they have months and months of playing together. What is it really like competing in this 6-game season?
It's really unlike nothing I'd experienced. I played on the Gridlock 2019 team, and even though I knew so many of the players, the athletes that I had played with, I could tell that our on-field chemistry was better because just you don't have that much time to get the reps, even when the talent is there. So it's really fun to have a different kind of challenge than club and college, and I think part of why the pro division is so attractive.
It's coming back.
And we're seeing that hybrid chemistry that we mentioned on display by this heavy hybrid O-line. The only player on this O-line, I think, who was not, well, I guess Champ Raines, as well as Shani Rosenthal. The other 5 all played with hybrid. Gerritzer joined hybrid after a college career with Texas. Foul call on this potential block against McGuire in the red zone.
Players will chat and observers might be called in to adjudicate.
So the players and the observer trying to determine if it was a foul or a clean block here. That was number 4 on Gridlock, Maria Webica, and looks like it's a no foul call.
Looked like a foul to me. What do you think, Judy?
It looked like it was a foul call. The possession is staying with contact, not all disc.
Gerritzer looks off the gainer on the open side to go to the break side. Little handler's dilemma there. Mast give and go with McGuire. And just one of the things that makes this O-line effective is they are quick. A lot of these players have quick feet. When you're talking about Mast, McGuire, Mattimore, Lowe, that puts a lot of pressure on these defenders. Lowe looks off a series of options, and then great defense from the Gridlock. There's also a stall call by Ding, and Laverca absolutely cutting off the option to go backwards to McGuire and forcing that difficult spot from Lowe.
And that's what you call Team D, when everybody there was locking down their player in the end zone on Gridlock. T-Lowe, an incredible thrower, had no options.
So what a goal line stand from the Gridlock. Cartagena to pick up. Diving save by Connerly, one of the new additions for New York this year. High throw, though, and there to clean it up is Lowe.
Lowe's revenge.
A quick turnover,
And McGuire into the end zone, and a wasted opportunity for New York.
Indy is here to play. This Mast, McGuire, Lowe, I mean, just such great performances from so many different players on Indy deep into the game here. Let's see again that first shutdown defense from Gridlock. No options for Lowe. Has to throw at stall. And so the disc goes back to where Lowe was. Gridlock gets a disc, but then Lowe, a run through D. Mast to McGuire to finish it out.
Great job by that Gridlock defense, cutting off those shallow inside throws that Lowe might have liked to hit downfield, and then taking away the reset. And at that point, Lowe just out of options. Mast continuing a big game, involved in 7 of the 12 red scores, 4 goals and 3 assists for the Team USA representative.
Mast is so fast, just is able to get to the disc without issue wherever she wants. And just to the Gridlock defense there, I mean, that's the defense that's missing at the middle of the field. It's exciting that they could turn it on in the end zone. Oh, it's Jolie Krebs. Catches the disc in a lot of traffic, but a foul called from Indy Red.
I don't know how Jolie Krebs did that, but, you know, that's pretty far for the course for me and Jolie Krebs. Just a bit of a lazy throw from Cartagena, and Krebs just no right to that disc. Not in the best position by any means, but just great hand-eye and explosiveness in the air.
And the question is here, was there contact before or at the catch? Because certainly there was contact after the catch, but the players discussing.
Take one more look at this. And I think the defender, Annie Milik, has a case there. You know, didn't really get a chance to get off a clear jump. But, you know, it's tough in those packs of players. I kind of want to be a little looser with the type of contact I allow in those situations, because it's so difficult for anybody to do anything successfully when there's 4 players underneath the disc.
Right, because Milik is below Krebs there, but isn't necessarily going directly over her head, is kind of going to the side. So it looks like it's going to be a contested foul, so the disc is going to go back to Cartagena before the boosted throw.
I'm sure Tina is glad to erase that throw from the record books. Strike that. That never happened.
Indeed.
Really an incredible play by Krebs, but I totally understand where Milik's coming from there. Krebs Again, facing this zone, and you can see when they go across, when they get across the midline, sometimes that far side player, right now it's MyLink, starts to pressure the reset, and that unpredictability is difficult, I think, for the handlers to. You can't really get quite in the rhythm of swing, when it's going to go this way. But again, when Krebs runs through that front layer, it feels like that is the most effective offensive tool they have.
And here she is doing that, listening to you right now, Keith.
And her receivers know it. They love to give it right back to her. They know that offensive momentum is really useful. Somewhere, Felix Chardlow is loving this.
And a beautiful finish, motored by Krebs. Really, the general of that point, moving it around and getting it to, I think it's fair to say, her favorite target, Jenny DeJesus. Cartagena up to Krebs. Krebs, just a quick release. She loves that quick release backhand to DeJesus's waiting hands for the score.
Well, if Mast has an impressive stat line with 4 goals, 3 assists, and a block for Red. On the other end, 5 goals for DeJesus, 6 assists for Krebs to go with 2 goals. So she's figured into 8 of Gridlock's 12 scores. I mean, this is just Jolie Krebs being Jolie Krebs. It's remarkable to me to say that somebody who played for SUNY Binghamton won a Callahan, but when you watch Jolie Krebs play, it starts to make sense. But I mean, this was basically the role she had to occupy with a far less experienced and talented team. But the fact that her takeover ability is scalable to elite levels is truly a special thing.
And also that she has the confidence to do that, because it's one thing to be the general of your college team and feel really good about that and know that you need to go every other and everyone agrees. It's another thing to come to this squad where there is, international top talent, and to also be able to recognize, hey, in this point, what the team needs is for me to go every other and do it so well. So it's that combination that is really rare that Krebs has.
Big crossover line for Gridlock. They really want this one. Bunch of offensive personnel out there with DeJesus, Finley, and Krebs. And a reset error. And no matter how this game finishes, I think the Red are going to be pretty frustrated with the type of unforced errors they've had. Krebs picks up high around break, but the reliable hands of Jenny DeJesus are there. And when the throw goes up, I think Krebs just believes Jenny DeJesus is going to win it.
Absolutely. Just no hesitation. Let's just do it again. We did it at the other end zone. Let's do it at this end zone. Great chemistry between them. So here's the missed throw and gives it to Gridlock. Red gives it to Gridlock right on the end zone line. Krebs' disc is pretty high. There's 2 Indy folks putting pressure on. No problem for DeJesus.
I mean, how many times have we seen the Red either throw it, an uncontested throw as a turnover, or drop an uncontested catch? There's been great defense in this game, and they've had some really brilliant offensive possessions, but some have been short-circuited by just one error. And it doesn't matter how nice the rest of your offense is if when it gets to the person's hands, they just drop it.
That's it. And it's, Gridlock has that talent of the, handler to receiver chemistry that if Jolie has it on the Red line, it's going in. There's no second chance for Indy there when they make that kind of mistake.
And that, Gridlock has had their share as well. It's not been a one-sided affair by any means, and you can tell that by the scoreboard. But in some ways, I wonder if Indy could be up by a lot more with a few fewer execution mistakes.
Or just further towards the field. I mean, to have that location of turnover makes it almost impossible to get back.
They have had a lot of those errors occur at either end of the spectrum, either going in the attacking end zone or in front of their own defending end zone. This look has been one they've been really effective with, those big, wide throws up the sideline, particularly to McGuire. Low. Uses that lefty forehand to sharply drop one in. Pinned on the sideline.
The crowd is chanting for
push
a
pass.
The players oblige.
McGuire over to Mast. Swim move from Garenser to get some space up the line, but then off the hands of Matamore.
Good heads up from Sam Harris there to tap it down. There could have been a second chance catch there if they hadn't gotten in there.
Krebs picks up. She and De Jesus are out with the D-line yet again, along with Finley. So there's plenty of offensive pop after the turn. No need for New York to use a timeout. Krebs off the line to Finley. Oh, and it looks like they're still going to take a timeout. You can't take them with you, you know?
To reset the stall count.
And
there's
also
no
the
rollover
timeout
minutes.
may have been to that count was getting high and there weren't a lot of options. So that it may be to change personnel, but it also may be because there was some gridlock on the field.
I, as a coach, hate taking timeouts in front of my own goal line, but especially against a team that's been throwing zone all game. I would be very surprised if Indy does not come out in some sort of look of that nature. Another look at this throw up to Matamore, just a little high and hot from Gerritzer.
And, in the first half, they were making all those catches. Those type of, not quite to the chest throws. Red was bringing them down.
Baker Street Health provides Gridlock players and staff with behavioral health, sport, and performance psychology, as well as podiatry services. They're located throughout New Jersey and are available for telehealth in over 35 states. From head to toe, the Gridlock is covered by Baker Street Health.
And now the Gridlock's got to go the whole length of the field if they want this break.
But there might not be another person in the league you'd rather have picking up the disc to start a possession with 70 to go than Yina Cartagena.
That's right. Interesting that Indy stayed person, though, here.
They did. Maybe not wanting to fall into some of the comfortable traps that New York is waiting to spring. Inside break. A lot of traffic, but Gridlock maintains possession. Cartagena. How about this Youngst-McGuire matchup? You're not going to see a lot of players who can outrun Cat McGuire, but I'd pay to see these two in a foot race.
Absolutely. I was also thinking Krebs and Mast, that let's have some foot races after the game.
I need some shuttles too. I mean, there's some quickness, there's some lightning around those feet. False start on the check. McGuire in. Young's clearly looking off the line. And this is kind of an interesting reset setup right now. De Jesus is directly behind Youngst, and then Cartagena is wide. So the angle to Cartagena is a little cut off by De Jesus and her defender. And De Jesus doesn't have a lot of room to operate either with the sideline there. I'll be curious to see how they navigate this.
Or maybe this is a special lefty setup that Youngst may have different throws than your average righty here.
You do see De Jesus trying to back up enough that Youngst can get off that around forehand without Matamore being able to break in. They're attacking the inside lane to Krebs. Cartagena. High stall. Just put something speculative to the end zone and knocked away by Gerritzer.
And it's not complete.
A nice box out from Gerritzer there to make sure that Finley doesn't have any chance on, a bobbing disc.
That's the second time we've seen her really seal off the opposition to make sure that when she gets a block, it's going to be Red's disc.
And now Indy with possession, a chance to tie it again.
And we are 75 seconds away from the final regulation horn.
This possession is so crucial for Indy.
And Indy has a lot of forward momentum right now. That Gridlock defense looks out of sorts as they're just trying to play catch-up. McGuire, 10 yards out, and a hand block that I think, well, we're going to talk about it. Thought maybe an uncontested foul based on the body language, but now Gridlock going to decide.
This is a big moment. Let's see it again. Definitely contact on the disc, but the question is always with the hand block, is it after it was released from 77 or while it was still in her hand? So we'll see the real slow-mo version.
Hard to say, even in slow-mo. I think these calls are really hard because I think it's really difficult for the one player to know what the other player was doing. If I'm the defender, how do I know if your hand was still touching it? If you're the offensive player, how do you know exactly when the defender first contacted the disc? Like, I think it's a difficult thing for both players to judge.
Exactly, and that's probably why I contested. Going back is the likely outcome, but they've brought the observer in. Yes.
If I had to make if like you were like you have to pick turnover or foul, I think I would have picked block there, clean block.
Gridlock pushing back Indy, who are on the doorstep there to tie the game up.
Indy looked super patient earlier in the possession, but now the pressure dialed up and they crack under it. Guarantee a second throwaway on almost the same throw.
And with time ticking, just less than 30 seconds left in the game, and this quarter is when the buzzer goes, the game is over. So Red have got to get the D, and they do!
What a chance for Indy. 14 seconds. They have to get it towards the end zone. Lowe, the player they want to throw it, puts it out to space, caught outside the end zone, and I don't know if they're going to get it off. If they do, it counts.
Oh my goodness, Keith, we just saw a buzzer beater.
Did we? I still don't know.
We'll wait to see if the observers say otherwise, but from Indy Celebration, they think they got it in before the time went off, which would mean we're going into overtime, but we're going to wait and see.
This season had only once in its six-season history ever gone to overtime. So this will be only
I mean, all the players are looking like nobody is questioning this. To me, it looked like that may have occurred after the clock, but I don't think our broadcast clock is exactly right. But I don't know if there's going to be any question about it. No one seems to be signaling that there may be a review of this moment. Great block.
That was
Eliza Hutchings coming up with a clutch block, and then is also the player who gets this off.
And that's Garanser for the score there. They sort of can't believe it. Both Indy and Gridlock are shocked at this outcome, but we got more ultimate to play, Keith, because it seems like that the score was good. Tie game.
If we could send this to Secaucus for the full review staff, I would highly recommend that. But we're gonna push forward with the drama, and we love it because we're getting free ultimate.
Oh yeah, I want to see more of this battle. Both teams just bringing it right now, just back and forth, back and forth. You think one team is looking clean and looking like they want to finish it, and then there's a drop or there's a block, and we're going to overtime. 13 all, and then there's a 5-minute overtime that will begin shortly. And actually, I don't know, is it also a buzzer beater at the end of this?
Well, more drama to come as we head to OT.
Ultimate is something that helps me regulate my mental health. Playing with joy is huge for me. It's something that just helps me touch grass literally, but also just have a good time with friends in a competitive environment.
I think that being able to play Ultimate Frisbee at a young age has done a lot for my mental health and to show me that I am capable of being confident at something and being able to pursue it and believe that I'm good at it.
To me, mental health means being in community and asking for help when you need it.
I'm so impressed by the conditioning of this Gridlock team. They look very well seasoned, and in spite of the relative heat and the lots and lots of reps, they're just continuing to go full throttle.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were looking at these two teams, I don't know if I'd be able to tell which one was playing more relative points per person. So I am really impressed with their clear conditioning, their hard work that has brought them here.
Overtime here at Facina Field in New York in a battle for the top spot in the North Division of the Premier Ultimate League. Indy Red with some incredible heroics. 15 seconds left. They don't have the disc. They don't care. They're like the Indiana Pacers out here as they steal a chance. And to be honest, I think that they completed that throw after the buzzer went off. No one else seems to be questioning it. No one out on the field. They're all proceeding with overtime, so I'm happy to ride along. But I think they got to land with one there, Judy.
I think so, too. Gridlock didn't appear to contest it, so we get 4 minutes of glorious overtime. Indy won the flip. They flip again for overtime, and they're starting on O.
A junk look from Gridlock to start. As you see, giving up free resets. Jesus up front. Indy trying to stay patient.
Gridlock's last game also went to overtime, so they are experienced with this, but to our knowledge, we don't think that Indy has had a game that's gone to overtime, so...
Well, this is the 9th quarter for Indy in 2 days. In less than. I mean, they played last night.
That's a very impressive performance from Indy.
But a small roster for New York, so maybe we're still waiting to see who's going to get the worst of a war of attrition. McGuire up to low, and then nobody covering Reigns, and that's a hold. And with only 4 minutes, every score is going to be vital.
Indy is fired up, able to throw a number of excellent shots here, starting with that first one. McGuire to low, low to Reigns, uncontested. And, overtime, it's really kind of the battle between sore legs and adrenaline, because it's so exciting. You're on the cusp, both teams, but you've also played such a long game. It doesn't look like from that possession that Indy is having the sore legs part.
So now Indy back on defense. They broke to open this game. Since then, the team's offenses have picked up steam, really. Only had 3 breaks in the second half.
When was the last time that Red was ahead?
They were up 11-10, and then, or they were up 12-11, excuse me, and then a break for New York made it 13-12. So these teams have been pretty back and forth. Red took the early lead. New York was ahead for much of the regulation play until we got in the fourth. This Gridlock team shorthanded, missing some players. Lift player, Cardenas, Montana Roberts, Abby Hecko. But it's Red who's on the second night of a back-to-back on the road. I don't think either team's thinking much about those things right now.
That's right. They're trying to be point-by-point focused, throw-by-throw focused. Can't make any errors in this really short time.
And a great chance for these teams to work on their systems through pressure. I mean, these are high-pressure moments. Every throw feels like it could be the one that decides this game. Under 2 minutes now to approach the 90-second mark. Finley. Cross to Cartagena. Cartagena's been chased by Lily Hobday for much of this game. One of the youngest players on the Red has been tasked with guarding one of the most experienced and renowned players in the world on the other side.
Has been doing a pretty good job. I mean, Cartagena's had a lot of fantastic throws as usual, but she hasn't been the absolutely central presence she often is. So credit credit to that defense. Looks like we're figuring out where in the stall count we should be. Gridlock playing, conservatively here.
Cartagena up the line on the forced sideline. Pivots to get it off to Krebs. Incisive throw from Cartagena to get that inside break up. But Krebs a little too far out and beyond the reach of a diving Cartagena. And now Red doesn't even have to score to take this incredible upset win and make it back-to-back nights. They've taken out some of the most feared teams in the PUL.
This is huge.
The observer has there's a timeout call.
Oh, Jolie Krebs feeling the pain there.
34
You can
seconds
see on her face and her
overtime period.
gestures, but it ain't over yet. Gridlock just needs to figure out how to light it up on defense. Conversely, like you said, Red just has to keep possession.
Krebs with 7 assists and 2 goals, but that's just her 3rd turnover of the game.
You can see again, just not enough lift on the disc there.
And when you have that kind of wide pivot stepping as she does, you can run into some of those errors of control where she's kind of exchanging more control over the disc to get it off quicker and wider, and crops up there.
But Krebs can motivate on D. I mean, this might be the fuel that she needs too. She's unhappy with that error, but this may fire her up.
What are you trying to do here if you're New York? I mean, you have to force a turnover.
Oh, you do.
And you do not have a lot of time to do it.
I'm trying to clog the lane, but I'm also really making sure that the huck space isn't totally open, so I have a few competing priorities here.
I think I want to induce hucks. I want to front, and because it's just a higher variance strategy. You may just get a miss on the deep shot. If you don't want to go down, not swinging. So I think fronting, trying to push teams into tough positions, but you can't poach the lane because free resets lead to your doom here. I would be willing to put a 3rd player into the reset space to try and pressure these throws.
Yes.
Anything to force them to throw a long throw that may be a turnover. Right now, unable to challenge these resets and the clock dripping away. We have 16 seconds left on our field clock.
And Indy is not being baited to throw deep.
This is about the same amount of time that Red had when they managed to pull Rabbit out of the hat. And that upfield throw all but does it. They need one more completion, really. And there it is. The Indy Red are going to do it, folks. Back-to-back on the road. They take down the Surge, and they hand the Gridlock their first loss in 2 years.
Oh, my goodness. We're standing up in the booth right now because we are just as shocked and amazed as all the viewers that Red just worked so hard in this game and are able to pull out an incredible nail-biting win. 14-13.
If you're going to cap off the regular season, you might as well do it in a way that rewrites all of the narratives. This vaunted New York team was expected to be the dominant team and run towards a potential 2nd title, but it's not going to be that easy. And this Indy Red team has announced themselves firmly in the conversation to take down the Real Ultimate League this year.
Big congrats to Indy Red, and it makes playoff weekend even more delicious here because there's no, golden team here. They all have a lot to show for.
What a win, Judy. And what to your eyes, what do you feel like it was that led Indy to being able to outscore this Gridlock team, even on the 2nd night of a back-to-back?
The athleticism on some of these 50-50 catches, I think, was a huge difference maker. If they hadn't caught, even in the first quarter, if they hadn't caught a couple of those kind of wonky, wily discs, that would have been it. Here are the standings. You can see the asterisk has been updated. Red and Gridlock are going to the champs. So are Shadow and Radiance, and this is going to be just an incredible matchup. What are you looking forward to in playoffs?
Well, I mean, that all of a sudden we've got Gridlock and Shadow, the two big, titanic favorites to start this season, and they're going to have to battle it out in the semifinals. So one of them is going to go into the final, probably battered and bruised, against whoever wins between the Red and the Radiants. So, I mean, this season has just gotten turned on its head in the past 2 nights.
This is terrific Ultimate. This is why the Premier Ultimate League is just so terrific and so important in the ecosystem of Ultimate.
And I wonder what New York is going to say after this, because when they go back on the tape and they look at that buzzer-beating score to force OT, they're probably going to be gritting their teeth. And yes, ultimately they should focus on the things that they could have done better in this game to win it. That's what probably matters. But the difference between having to play DC in semis and playing them potentially in the final, it's pretty big. And I think we may hear some grumbles, because they have a legitimate case that the Red kind of got away with one and then ended up pulling it out in an impressive overtime showing from Indy.
So we're seeing some of these great catches.
I mean, even from the start, we saw this Indy team was going to bring it.
They're ready to go. I mean, it doesn't matter how many hours of Ultimate they've played recently. They just get on their horse, just a depth of team, a chemistry of the team, a trust of, if I'm going to boost this up, you're going to box out and get it. Just really, really impressive play. And the Gridlock were no slouch. I mean, let's look at some of these highlights of just the fantastic plays throughout the game. Both sides bringing it.
A tremendous showing by two of the best teams in this league, and we'll see them both at championship weekend in Milwaukee, along with DC and Raleigh. That's going to do it here for New York in the regular season. They take their first loss in 2 seasons, and it's the Indy Red who finish atop the North Division.